Mike McGuire, and I'm honored to be able to work with you here on the North Coast throughout Northern California. And of course, President of the State Senate, we want to take a moment to say thank you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule on a Wednesday evening to join this critical town hall on fire prevention and preparedness. And it couldn't come at a more important time. It's Wildfire Preparedness Week across California. And we want to welcome, of course, Cal Fire Fire Chief Joe Tyler to the town hall today. You know, Chief Tyler has dedicated his life to be able to keep the people of California safe. And I know he is honored, and we are honored that he is representing the nearly 12,000 women and men who are the gold standard of America's firefighting force, Cal Fire firefighters. And Chief, we're really grateful that you are here this evening. We have a jam-packed town hall planned for you. We're going to be talking all issues related to wildfire, what the upcoming wildfire season forecast will look like. Chief Tyler will give us that information, how the state is beefing up our fire response and prevention efforts. We're going to be talking about the most effective steps that you and other homeowners can take to prepare for wildfires, tried and true steps to be able to harden your home and better prepare your property. And we're going to have more on that in just a few moments, but some quick opening remarks. You know, we've had one heck of a winter. Some people were out building an ark in parts of the North Coast here this year. We've had so much rain. Here is the good news. The vast majority of California's reservoirs, our lakes, they are at or very near capacity. This is big news for water across California. And what we also know is big rain means big growth in vegetation. And despite this wet winter, and despite the snowpack that we may see in this year now, wildfire season is here to stay. It's knocking on our door, and that is why we need you to get prepared tonight. Now, in the last few years, California has been preparing for some of the worst that we know may be ahead. We've expanded our resources to help make our communities more fire safe, and we continue to invest like we've never before in wildfire prevention, preparedness, and response. You know, since 2016, the state has expanded the Cal Fire firefighting ranks from 6,700 to over near 12,000 firefighting positions today. And another 1,000 full-time firefighters will be coming on board over the next couple of years. And that's incredibly critical and important to our firefighting response efforts. The Golden State has also expanded our training facilities to bring on new firefighters quicker, and we've dramatically expanded the number of new firefighting planes and helicopters. We've ushered out all of our Vietnam-era helicopters and replaced them with night-fighting Black Hawk helicopters, which is a game changer across California. And you're going to hear about this from Chief Tyler in just a few moments. We've secured 7 C-130 cargo planes, which will soon become the largest fire bombers in the sky. More on this important development and when they'll be taking to the sky here shortly from Chief Tyler. We've also made a huge effort on making our forest lands more fire safe. 600,000 acres of forest land have been made more fire safe through dead and dying tree removal, prescribed burning, and vegetation management. It's reducing the risk of catastrophic wildfire. And we have to focus on the local level. We're making tremendous investments at the state level. We have to focus at home as well. And that's why we've been leading the effort to help local fire districts, municipal fire departments, and volunteer fire companies in every corner of the North Bay and North Coast become better prepared for fire response. We've led the effort to purchase 10 new Type 6 fire engines in northern Mendocino and southern Humboldt counties. We're adding 2 new permanent wildfire crews in Marin County. We have purchased 2 new fire engines for the Sonoma County fire districts. We've secured $5 million to help expand the Roseland Firehouse in the city of Santa Rosa. We've secured the funding to be able to build a brand new fire training tower at the Santa Rosa Junior College, which will help greatly expand the number of new firefighting recruits coming through the Fire Academy And we're grateful to be working with the County of Lake and the Board of Supervisors on a plan to remove thousands upon thousands of dead and dying trees in every corner of Lake County. We hope to kick that initiative off in the coming months. And we want to say thank you so much to the Lake County Board of Supervisors for your partnership. And we've also invested millions to be able to deploy wildfire detection cameras in communities and open lands and forest lands across the North Coast, Northern California, and throughout the great state of California. Now, here's what I'll say. With all of that progress, we can't take our foot off the pedal. We know there's much more work to do, and I promise you, you're going to see us continuing to invest in wildfire prevention and response. Now, tonight, we're going to be focusing on wildfire prevention, wildfire response, and preparedness, but we've also received literally dozens upon dozens of questions from folks all throughout Northern California about the insurance crisis that our communities are facing each and every day. And while we're not going to be specifically focused on insurance tonight, here's what I'm going to promise you this evening. We are going to be laser focused on solving this crisis in the legislature this year. And here's what we know. Because of the mega fires that have been plaguing our communities since 2015, when the Valley Fire first broke out in Lake County, we have seen this insurance crisis spread across the Golden State. And now we're seeing significant number of non-renewals in Central and Southern California, and we've been seeing it here in Northern California. I want to be crystal clear this evening. Simply raising homeowners' insurance rates by 20 to 40% isn't going to make a community, and it's not going to make a home more fire safe. There's much more that we have to do. And what we also know is raising rates isn't going to be a game changer when it comes to fire prevention. I'm going to use the state of Florida, for example. The state of Florida over the past many years has literally rolled out the red carpet for insurers. They have homeowners insurance rates 3 to 4 times the national average. Yet 17 insurance companies have permanently pulled out of the state of Florida, even though that they have advanced tort reform, making it harder for residents to sue insurance companies. They have incredibly high insurance rates, some of the highest in America. They, even though they're a state of half the population of California, they have 1 million folks on their insurance of last resort. We only have 370,000. It will be much less when we start migrating folks off of the fair play and back onto traditional policies. And here's where we're going to be focused. Number one, we need to get about 85% of folks off of the fair plan, insurance of last resort, and back into a traditional homeowners insurance policy. You're going to see that happening over the next 24 to 36 months. Number two, we need to be able to advance community and home hardening initiatives, greatly expand that. And when a community hardens homes within their neighborhoods, we truly need insurance companies to write if they're reducing risk, which we will if we have community hardening plans. We need a path to renewal for folks who are non-renewed from a traditional homeowner insurance policy. And these telephones are what we live by. It is our lifeline in times of need. Every Californian should have access to their fire risk score on where they live based off of a simple trip to a website determining what the risk is and what they can do to reduce the fire risk. Much more to come, I promise you, on insurance. Tonight, though, we're going to be focusing on wildfire prevention, response, and preparedness. And again, who better to talk with than the CAL FIRE Chief, Joe Tyler. He's truly one of the best. Chief, we have over 800 folks now, 842. It continues to go up, 842 folks joining us tonight. Again, good evening. Thank you so much. We're taking your questions live this evening as well. There's 2 ways to be able to submit a comment, submit a question. Email us, senator.mcguire@senate.ca.gov. Email your questions, your comments, senator.mcguire@senate.ca.gov. If you're watching on Facebook, simply drop your comment, your question into the comment section right below, and we will get those on the air shortly. As the chief also heard, we have hundreds of questions that have been previously submitted over the last couple of weeks as we've been promoting the town hall. We're going to get to as many possible tonight. Without further ado, though, let's turn it over to the star of the show. That's CAL FIRE Chief Joe Tyler. Chief Tyler, thank you so much for joining Wildfire Preparedness Week. You got a little sun here today. I could tell. My goodness, you've been all over the state, really making sure Californians are ready to go for wildfire season. Take it away.
Well, thank you, Senator McGuire, for asking me to join your town hall tonight. My name is Joe Tyler. I'm the Director and Fire Chief of CAL FIRE. My office is here in Sacramento, California, but I am not unfamiliar with Northern California at all, and I'll talk about that here in just a little bit. It is Wildfire Preparedness Week in 2024, and our motto this week is meeting the mission through partnerships. And the partnerships aren't just at the local, state, federal, tribal levels. It is all about all of us coming together with you, the public, to make California more resilient, make your homes more safe, and make our communities safer and more resilient from the threats of wildfire. Now, this is my 34th fire year within the department, and currently I'm loving the opportunities that I have to support the women and men of CAL FIRE, as well as the fire service as a whole and our natural resource protection as a whole across the state. I started my career in Shasta County, born and raised in Redding, and then I took an opportunity, well, my parents took an opportunity to move to the edge of the Mattole River in southern Humboldt County in the community of Whitethorn, which is where I was for my sophomore and junior year of high school at South Fork High School in Miranda. So know that area well. And then fighting fires through your communities throughout these years has got to know the geography and the community well. So with that, the Department of Forestry, really a little bit of history about us, and it's important to talk about the history just for a second because it's important for me to have our own personnel understand the history of our department as well. Department of Forestry and Fire Protection was originally established on March 3rd, 1885 as the Board of Forestry to monitor forest health, mining, and logging along what was then called Lake Bigler. In 1945, Lake Bigler was renamed to Lake Tahoe. That was the genesis of this department, and really even further, the Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, which today is commonly referred to as CAL FIRE, was born out of the Division of Forestry. Now, CAL FIRE is a natural resource protection, fire suppression, fire prevention organization. There are multiple facets in which we are responsible for. In addition, in 1995, the Department of Forestry and Fire Protection brought in the Office of the State Fire Marshal, which added additional elements to the responsibilities of the department as a whole. We do this in several ways. It's really fire prevention through education, through engineering and enforcement. It's getting public information out, dealing with and addressing fire and life safety concerns, fire code enforcement, public resource code enforcement, land use planning, home hardening that we'll talk about tonight, defensible space inspections, and as part of the Office of State Fire Marshal, petroleum pipelines along much of our Southern California coast and through the Bay Area as well, doing pipeline safety, dealing in grants, fuels reduction, prescribed fire, and understanding from our tribal nations, get a better understanding of cultural burning and traditional ecological knowledge and practices. That is an important thing for myself to impress upon our personnel across the department. In resource management, it's really includes forest practice enforcement, urban and community forestry initiatives, finding opportunities for schoolyard greening, where many of our children are playing daily on asphalt playgrounds, where schoolyard greening and grant opportunities from that will be able to provide shade for those areas. Climate and energy initiatives, monitoring and research initiatives, reforestation initiatives, And then, of course, we have demonstration state forests across the state, in which we have 14 of those currently, the largest being the Jackson Demonstration State Forest in Mendocino County. As it relates to our fire suppression organization, it is one headquarters located here in Sacramento. We have 2 regions, but they have 2 regional offices. Their operational center in Northern California is in Redding. Their administrative headquarters is in Santa Rosa. Likewise, in Southern California, the administrative headquarters is in Fresno, and the operational headquarters is in Riverside. There are 21 operational units across the state, so we are a decentralized organization. And for those of you within Senate District 2, largely you're sitting within the Sonoma Lake Napa unit, which the unit chief there is Mike Marcucci. The Mendocino unit, where that unit chief is Brandon Gunn. The Humboldt Del Norte unit, in which that unit chief is Kurt McCrae, whom I went to high school with there at South Fork. And then a portion of Trinity County falls within the operational boundaries of Humboldt Del Norte, but also the Shasta Trinity unit, where Sean O'Hara is the unit chief there. We have 6 contract counties across the state, and Senate District 2 covers Marin County, where the Marin County Fire Chief Jason Weber is one of 6 contract counties in which we provide funding for to provide protection of the state responsibility area for initial attack firefighting, and then we support them with extended and large fire support as that fire expands. It is really about partnerships with our local agencies, our federal agencies, our tribal nations, our nonprofits, fire safe councils, and Firewise communities. I would impress that if you are not part of a fire safe council or building a Firewise community to assess wildfire risk, I would encourage you to do so. It is a great opportunity to understand the risk, to really get involved in the community, to create more resilience and prevention, and it provides an avenue for grant funding, an easier avenue for grant funding into those fire safe councils and those Firewise communities. Now, we recognize the heavy rain and snow that we have received in 2024 thus far, and we recognize the rain and the snow that we received in 2022 and 2023. And I will tell you that rain and snow did have an impact on the 2022 and 23 seasons, but we still had fires. And at the same time, we have to give credit to the women and men of all the public safety organizations who mitigated those fires when they were small and did the prevention work to allow those fires and at times to remain small. So as we go into 2024 across Northern California, we have predictive services units and meteorologists and fire scientists who are constantly looking at the impacts of the vegetation and the temperatures and precipitation. So right now, across Northern California, we're looking at a potential for what we would consider a normal fire season in May, with very little activity that's going to occur in the June period. Maybe some small uptick in July, where it starts becoming more of a normal fire season. You know, largely, I'm not sure anymore. Everybody's definition of normal could be different, but we are finding ourselves in a situation where we're going to be into August, where it's typically going to end up into a peak season. We're going to see fires spread as a slower start across the early part of the season, which will also provide opportunities for our units and prescribed burn associations and cultural burners to be able to find opportunities to do prescribed fire and cultural burning in that time frame. Now, the curing of the grass across Northern California will start getting more noticeable in late May, early June, and we will likely see an uptick of the initial attack fire activity in the grass as it continues to spread, but we will have the resources ready and prepared with our local partners to be able to address that. Across Southern California, I'll just hit this even more briefly. Across Southern California, they've had a lot of the same rain conditions, and really through August, our fire scientists and predictive services units are expecting a below normal fire behavior or fire season up through August in Southern California. Now, our drought monitor across the state right now really is showing only 1.8% of the state right now is abnormally dry, not even in a defined drought at this moment. That is down from 31.9% of the state being either in a drought or abnormally dry at this time last year. So we are in a better condition right now than we were in the previous year. Now, above and beyond what your local jurisdictions, what your local fire departments, what your federal agencies will provide to you to protect you in the event of an emergency, CAL FIRE has 234 stations across the state, 356 fire engines, 60 bulldozers, 65 Department of Corrections hand crews on average, 10 of our state fuels crews that will do vegetation management primarily, 38 CAL FIRE hand crews, 32 California Conservation Corps hand crews, and then we partner with the California Military Department, California National Guard to provide 14 additional hand crews. We have local cooperative fire protection agreements that exist in 36 of the 58 counties across the state with 158 different agreements to provide those services. As the senator said earlier, we are at 12,000 employees strong right now, with 9,000 primarily in fire suppression, 1,000 that are largely in fire prevention, and another 1,000 that are in administrative roles. That only makes up about 11,000 of the 12,000 employees. And admittedly and transparently, there's always turnover in vacant positions that we have to fill, and there's a process to do that. So at any one time, there's an average of 7 to 10% of our department that is vacant at the moment. But it's important, again, to note that it's those partnerships that we're a total force organization, and we cross-train all of our employees to do everything that we do. Now, aircraft play, as the senator said, the aircraft play a large and important role as part of CAL FIRE. Local agencies have firefighting aviation resources as well, but I'm proud that the state of California has the largest state-owned aerial firefighting force in the world. Right now, we have 23 S2T Grumman air tankers that carry about 1,200 gallons. You'll find those flying out of Sonoma and out of Ukiah. We have the 7 C-130s that you heard about, and that is so important to me because the 7 C-130s was a project that started in 2013 with our federal partners. In 2018, it transitioned to the state in cooperation with the United States Air Force and Coast Guard. But we went into a pandemic. There were supply chain issues, and the state of California was sitting as a consultant on the sideline as we dealt with federal procurement processes. Well, at the end of 2023, the National Defense Authorization Act was signed that transferred all 7 of these C-130s to the state of California. And the proud moment I can tell each and every one of you is from 2013 through 2023, there wasn't a lot of movement. Since we signed and transferred title here at the beginning, right at the beginning of 24, I can tell you that the first C-130 will be in its flight testing stage probably by July of this year, with the first one operational hopefully in September or October of this year, with all of them flying by the 2025 fire year. I'm so proud of that, of the movement that our folks have made just in a short 5 months of having the transfer title, the title transferred to us. Senator McGuire also talked about transitioning out of our 12 Vietnam-era Super Huey helicopters. We still are flying 2. One is in Ronerville, and the other is located in Bieber. But they will be transitioning into their Black Hawk helicopters here soon as well. We will fly 10 of the 16 at any one time. The others will be for surge capacity and maintenance as they rotate in and out, because we're going to start flying these helicopters at night. All, 5 of the bases will be able to fly 24 hours a day. All of them will be capable of flying 24 hours a day. It really is the start of this program that we staffed 5 of the bases with enough personnel to be able to do that. But I suspect that that is going to expand. Those S-70I Black Hawk helicopters locally in Senate District 2 are currently sitting at Boggs Helitack Base and sitting at Howard Forest. So proud of that. The difference is from the Hueys to the Hawks is the Hueys with a bucket, we're carrying 324 gallons of water. These tanked Black Hawk helicopters are carrying 1,000 gallons of water at a time, and they can fill that 1,000 gallons of water in about less than 2 minutes. So it is really a great asset across the board. We have 17.
Keep real quick. We got about a minute, and we're going to need to get to some questions. Yeah, please continue.
Okay. No problem. We'll continue with the aircraft. We are going to have the exclusive use aircraft sitting in Senate District 2 as well this year. And then moving forward really is a lot of grant opportunities. We can talk about some of those in Q&A, but there are grant opportunities in wildfire prevention, forest health, reforestation, research and monitoring, business and workforce development. All of these can be found on our website at fire.ca.gov. So I'm sure there's going to be many more questions about grants and those opportunities. Following our social media, following readyforwildfire.org, or going to fire.ca.gov is going to take you to that area where you can see a lot of those items. So hopefully we'll hit some more of these with questions, and I'll turn it back to you, Senator.
Chief, thank you so much. That's Chief Tyler from CAL FIRE. You are tuning in over 850 strong. Chris Nielsen just told me. So 850 strong across Northern California. We welcome you to our Wildfire Preparedness and Prevention Town Hall. You're talking with CAL FIRE Chief Joe Tyler this evening. There aren't many folks from the great community of Whitethorn, and you were able to talk to one of them here this evening, and love hearing about that, Chief. A few ways that you can communicate tonight. We really want to be able to hear from you. The most important part of tonight, getting to your questions. The Chief and I are going to go through a lightning round of questions, getting to as many as possible. We'll be answering a few dozen here tonight. You can email us right now. We're taking your questions live. senator.mcguire@senate.ca.gov. Email us your questions. We're taking them live tonight. senator.mcguire@senate.ca.gov. If you're watching on Facebook, simply drop your question into the comment section, and we'll be lifting those out and getting them live on the town hall. All right. So, Chief, real quick, amazing number, the number of wildfire prevention grants that have come from CAL FIRE between the Golden Gate Bridge and the Oregon border. Big number. Go ahead, Chief. Talk about that.
All right, so we talked a little bit about those grants already. It's important to note between the legislature and the administration that they've invested over $2.8 billion in fire prevention effects, resources, grant opportunities. You know, in Senate District 2, from the Bay Area to Oregon border, there have been 103 grants that have been awarded in the last 5 years for $57.2 million. That's in wildland fire prevention alone. Of those 103, 51 of those grants are still actively being worked on. The others have been completed and closed out. As it relates to our climate and energy program, 31 grants for $133 million. Tribal wildfire resilience, 4 grants for $1.5 million. In business and workforce development, 11 grants for $8.1 million. In wildfire resilience, not to be confused with wildfire prevention, 80 grants for $60 million.
Wow.
Urban and community forestry, 8 grants for $16.5 million. That is all just in Senate District 2.
Yeah, it's incredible. And there are very few areas of the state that have been impacted by wildfire, and it has been a top priority, whether it's the Senate, the Assembly, the governor, to be able to get this money into the hands of communities, to be able to make neighborhoods in the surrounding regions more wildfire safe. We're going live to your questions right now. We want to say thank you so much to Chris. Chris emails in to the Chief. If a mature tree or two hang over the roof of my home and they're not dead, is it considered unsafe to have no gap between them and my house? Chief, take it away.
So there are a couple things to consider with how that tree is leaning or hanging over your house. The one thing that we ask is that you limb your trees up. Have the ladder fuel from the ground removed up the trunk of that tree. As the limbs are hanging over the tree, we just simply ask that you make sure that those limbs are at least 10 feet away from any chimney and at least 10 feet away from any roof line moving forward. Now, there's going to be a lot of questions into the future about Zone 0. And I know that there might be some other questions about Zone 0. The regulations for Zone 0.
You should describe Zone 0 quickly, Chief.
Yes. 0 to 5 feet clearance next to a structure. So there will be questions about, as we go into Zone 0, is whether that close tree in proximity to your home will have to be limbed up, will be recommended for removal. It'll have a lot of discussion about existing structures versus new structures to meet Chapter 7A of the Building Code.
All right, we're going to keep on with questions. We're going to get to as many questions as possible tonight. Carl writes in to the chief, if not already discussed, which it hasn't, can you clarify the definition of defensible space? Chief, being able to clear vegetation away from your home, away from the apartment building that you may live in. Chief, take it away on what is the exact definition of defensible space.
All right, so defensible space is really multiple zones moving out from the structure. One is making sure your structures are hardened, and we'll probably talk about that later. 2 is making sure that embers on the roof and in the gutters are removed. And then there will be this point which with Zone 0, or that 0 to 5, will be talked about more into the future. But for now, that 0 to 30 feet, we ask that you clear that down to a manageable 1 to 2 inches of grass, removing the ladder fuels going up the trees. And then 30.
So Chief, just what does that mean? So if I have a house and I have, waist high hedge within 5 feet, what does that mean in regards to, do I need to remove that? Is that all right to have it there? And it also depends on where you live too, Chief, right? We're not talking about in a neighborhood, but we're talking about a potential area that may be out in the country and more prone to wildfire. But Chief, just describe that if you don't mind.
Correct. So defensible space at this point, because no new regulations exist, is ornamental shrubs. We're not going to ask you to remove those, but it would be good to keep them trimmed and manicured as you move forward. But manicuring your property, your lawn, is really what it's going to mean to maintaining your defensible space out to your property line.
That's great, Chief. Thank you so much. I'm going to go to Lawrence Mitchell. Lawrence writes in, how do neighbors reduce fuel load on their property? So what would be, if you were to say to Lawrence, best way to be able to, for example, weed eating, right? Limit up your trees, take it away, Chief. What's the best way to make your property more fire safe by reducing fuel load?
So property is always different across the board, but in general, weed eating in the morning or the evening when relative humidities are higher, to get that vegetation down. Mowing, remember that your lawnmower is meant for a lawn, not necessarily a field. It does have the tendency to create spark if it hits a tree, or I'm sorry, if it hits a rock or something of that nature. So just be cautious and make sure that you have a water supply nearby as you're doing that. Now, many fire safe councils have grants that provide chipping opportunities for chippers to come out and chip some of that larger debris. Remove the ladder fuels will really help reduce the fire load in your property.
You're talking to Cal Fire Chief Joe Tyler tonight. If you're just tuning in, it's our Wildfire Preparedness and Prevention Town Hall. Thank you so much for joining us. The questions are coming in fast and furious. If you'd like to be able to add your question, your comment tonight, email us right now, senator.mcguire@senate.ca.gov, senator.mcguire@senate.ca.gov. Let's keep it going. We are just got a live question from Gabriel. Gabriel writes in, good evening. How is Cal Fire working with Indigenous tribes and First Nations to serve the people of California in a manner that respects their history and cultural practices? And I'll just take this one real quick, Chief, and it's something that we worked with you on and your team is, look, what we know is that Native American governments should not be going through the traditional process that we have municipal governments going through. This should be a government-to-government relationship. So for the first time, what the state has done is created a separate account, $20 million, for Native American communities to be able to apply for wildfire fuel reduction funding. And that was groundbreaking for this state. And it's solely focused on Native American communities. But Chief, you work constantly with tribal leaders across this state. Take it away, please, sir, on how CAL FIRE works with tribal communities and leaders.
So it's important to first acknowledge that that we are a large department, decentralized, and I am responsible for all of it. It is important to also recognize that this department needs to change a culture and better understand working with our First Nations and our tribal partners in understanding indigenous practices, understanding traditional ecological knowledge, understanding that our First Nations have sovereign land in which they can't be and won't be treated the same under any other circumstances. So it's important that since I have been in this position to try to change that culture and become more involved through our unit chiefs and through our Sacramento headquarters to better build those relationships. One of the things that I did here in just the last month was I hired a person dedicated on my executive staff. Her name is Helen Lopez. She will be our tribal relations advisor on the executive team. I just sent a letter personally to every federally recognized and non-federally recognized tribe in the state, letting them know that my unit chiefs will be reaching out to provide a listening session of what the concerns are of each one of our tribal partners across the state. So then we can adapt, see where we need to improve and build upon those relationships.
Thank you so much, CAL FIRE Chief Joe Tyler. We're taking your questions here this evening. Let's go to the next. Nancy writes in from Sonoma County. In my area of Sonoma County, Livestock has been very successful in controlling vegetation in residential and suburban areas. Is that still in the prevention plan? Chief, take it away.
So it is still part of the prevention plan. Our Community Wildfire Preparedness and Mitigation Division really talks about that. You can find that at osfm.fire.ca.gov. It is an important tool in providing greater fire resilience and prevention across the state.
Yeah, and Chief, Caltrans, for example, has been working on bringing out additional hundreds of goats out to the sides of highways. In fact, in Sonoma County over the last couple of years, literally hundreds of goats were released in between Healdsburg and Cloverdale within the state right away, munching down all that vegetation. It's one of the more successful measures that folks can take. But again, it's going to have to be done year after year after year as needing to be able to keep that brush down. I'm going to go to Tom. Tom, thank you so much. Tom emailed at senator.mcguire@senate.ca.gov. He just emailed in, what are the priorities for the public and state together to lower fire risk and have as much impact as possible to keep fire insurance costs down? Tom, really good question. I'm going to share a bit of frustration with you, and this is what we're working on this year. So folks need to be able to get a better understanding of what their investment means to harden their home, advance vegetation management on their property when it comes to insurance. So right now, if I could just be candid, Californians who are doing the right thing aren't getting credit with their insurance companies. So CAL FIRE, state of California is funding it, has been advancing grants for entire communities. There's one up in Lake County right now, over 100 homes above Clear Lake that are being hardened. They can't secure home insurance. I'll give you my opinion. If a community hardens the neighborhoods included within its boundaries, traditional insurance companies should write. Bottom line, insurance companies are in the business of risk. If we're significantly reducing the risk of wildfire, they should write. There is no statute on the books right now that forces them to do so. And I will tell you, we have tried it, by the way. And again, Chief is not saying this. This is just my own belief, is that it gets incredibly political. They come in with a lot of money to be able to fight it. But I'm telling you, we're going to bring it back, because if we have home hardening dollars available and hardworking Californians are putting their own hard-earned dollars into making their communities more fire safe, insurance companies should write. Chief, I gave my opinion. Take it away. You don't need to be as blunt as I was, but Chief, take it away on your thoughts on where Tom is talking.
That's all right. I'm right there with you, Senator. And you know, really what it comes down to is continuing regardless of where we are in the insurance problem. It is about each of us helping each other protect our homes and our properties and the environment. So continuing that defensible space, getting involved in a fire safe council, or becoming part of a Firewise community. As the Senator just said, in Kelseyville and Riviera Highlands, we are running a pilot program there to harden the homes. And we'll see with data how that turns out of being able to harden those homes. The important thing is, when you look at an entire community, you can't just harden one home. You have to harden the entire community. And you first have to harden the homes that are most closely to the approaching fire front, so that the homes that are internal to that will be less susceptible through ember cast or otherwise. But it's more than just one home. It's hardening the entire community.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why, again, where I think where we need to end up is, if the state, and by the way, the state is investing tens of millions of dollars to be able to make these communities more fire safe, reducing the risk of catastrophic wildfire, traditional insurance companies should be writing that policy. We can't expect them to write policy one home at a time, because it's candidly just not consistent. But if we look at consistent standards across the board, that's where I firmly believe they should be writing in. More work to come on that, I promise you. Let's get into the issue of grants. Good evening, Mishavo. Thank you so much for writing in. Chief, Marion writes in, are there grants for homeowners designated for clearing a defensible space? Absolutely, there is. The way it works is working with a fire district or resource conservation district, a local city, a county, a fire district, an RCD, resource conservation district, would have to apply for the funding. And then those homes that's within the project area that's funded would get the work. Chief, anything you want to add to that?
No, you just clarified that best. I would have said the same thing, that it is really, we provide lots of opportunities into an organization that can then support the community, providing block grant opportunities to support those communities as well, much like the Senator just described.
100%. Supervisor Simon just writes in, thank you so much, Supervisor Simon from Lake County. The Black Hawk helicopter on Boggs Mountain has been priceless for Lake County. Thank you so much to CAL FIRE, and of course to our office, but very grateful. He says, Chief, for you to keep up the good work. Thank you so much, Supervisor Simon. Supervisor Simon does incredible work in the county of Lake, does amazing work in Middletown, and is one hell of a football coach as well. So, Supervisor, hope you're doing well this evening. Let's go to Betsy. Betsy writes in tonight, Chief from Lake County, mobile home parks have special needs for prevention. What can be done for mobile home parks, and do grant dollars apply for mobile home parks? Chief Tyler.
So that again is a situation where we will provide grants to fire safe councils, to counties, to RCDs, to be able to provide support into those areas, especially those areas that are in need of functional access to work in those areas. It is important to recognize that mobile home parks are an important aspect that we really need to pay a lot of attention to. For some across the state, I don't know about this particular one, there is one way in, one way out. Finding alternate access and having those open are important. The other thing that I will say, it is important that across the board, regardless of whether you're in Humboldt, Lake, or Sonoma, you should sign up for wireless alert notifications. That is usually through your local emergency manager, through your local fire department, through your local law enforcement agency. So you can get those alerts from them immediately when there's approaching fire or a need to evacuate.
800 strong so far tonight. We peaked out at about 850. We still have 800 strong across Northern California tuning in on this Wildfire Preparedness Week for our Wildfire Preparedness and Prevention Town Hall. Thank you so much. We're with Chief Joe Tyler, Chief of CAL FIRE, representing 12,000 of the hardest working women and men in the wildfire firefighting service across America. We're grateful that the chief is with us. We are getting inundated with questions. Keep them coming. Senator.mcguire@senate.ca.gov, Senator.mcguire@senate.ca.gov. If you're watching on Facebook, simply drop in your comment and we'll get them in the comment section. All right, Dr. Dempsey writes in, all right, let's get to the bottom of what happened to the 747. Chief, there was that super tanker 747. Everybody loved hearing it and seeing it. You knew that it was the cavalry coming in. What happened to the super tanker? And do you believe that those 7 C-130s will do the job as that 747 once did? What the hell happened to the super tanker?
Yeah, so I could talk about this a long time, but we don't have time. Initially it was called Evergreen. It was later called and bought by a capital company and became Global Supertanker. Global Supertanker, the 747, was capable of carrying 29,000 gallons of retardant, but because of its coverage levels and the turbulence, was restricted through the Interagency Air Tanker Board to hold 19,000 gallons of retardant. A 747 isn't as nimble as even the DC-10s or even the C-130s, carry a little bit less retardant, but can still provide good service into canyons and across ridge tops. Ultimately, we were using the 747 as well as other organizations across the state, but there becomes a point that I can't speak to where a company has to determine its profit margin, its successes, and at the end of the day, Global Supertanker sold the single 747, removed the equipment out of it, and the last time I heard, it was hauling cargo.
Yeah, my goodness. Everybody loves seeing that. 2017 fires, there is nothing better seeing that coming in. But again, I want to stress the largest publicly owned firefighting air attack fleet in the world is right here in the Golden State. And we're adding to it 7 large C-130 cargo planes. You'll start seeing them potentially later this year, full fleet moving into next year. This is truly going to be a game changer. Chief, how many gallons of retardant can those C-130s handle at any one trip?
So a C-130 carries 4,000 gallons of retardant with controllable doors. So they can dump all 4,000 gallons at once, or they can go around several times, dumping 1,000 gallons at a time, 4 times. Compared to the S2 that we currently have, the S2, depending on its elevation and the temperature, will carry between 800 and 1,200 gallons.
I mean, it's giant. It's fantastic. And can't wait to see them up in the sky here. Let's go to Karen. Karen says, I live alone. I'm disabled. Are there simple things that I can do to keep my place safe? If my friends are not able to assist me, what can I do? Chief.
So this is how I started. This is my message this year. It's about partnerships, and I understand that you are alone, but my plea is to your neighbors, to your friends, are to help you make your home more defendable, that we should be helping neighbor, that we should be helping those in need to be able to make your homes more defendable, to clear the material off the roof and out of the gutters, to remove flammable material from up against your home, to be able to, just like I said, make it more defendable. There are grant programs many times for functional and accessible needs that can help in these processes, but many times are through RCDs or nonprofits to be able to do that.
You're with Chief Joe Tyler, CAL FIRE Chief here in the state of California. My name is Mike McGuire. Honored to work with you in the state Senate. We're taking your questions this evening during this Wildfire Preparedness Week. Senator.McGuire at senate.ca.gov. Let's say good evening to Gina. Gina writes in, how can we distinguish level of risk among different areas of the state so that insurance companies can better write home owners insurance? So, Chief, we know CAL FIRE maintains risk as far as knowing what the fire risk is in different regions. But unfortunately, the way it works right now is that insurance companies make the final decision on what the risk is, and then they decide to write a policy or not. But Chief, take it away. How does risk work in writing insurance?
So that is a great question and a great opportunity to clarify. Many people saw that CAL FIRE released in the state responsibility area wildfire severity zone maps. Those wildfire severity zone maps are really based on the hazards, and the hazards around fuel, topography, weather conditions in those areas. We are really reflecting what the hazards are to put you into a moderate, high, or very high fire hazard severity zone. But our insurance companies are modeling and making decisions based on risk. And I wish I could sit here today and tell you what each insurance company is using as their risk assessment, but I actually don't even know that answer myself.
Yeah, the insurance companies they contract with private companies that develop the catastrophic modeling or risk score, and it's proprietary, and they don't share it, of course, with their clients or the state of California. That's why I firmly believe that we need a public risk score. If we truly hope to make this state more wildfire safe, every homeowner should be able to go to their damn cell phone, look up within a matter of seconds at their fingertips what their home risk score is and what they can do to lower it. And right now, all of the power is in an insurance company's hands. They have ultimate decision-making on if they're going to write a policy or not. And that's where I firmly believe we need to be able to bring some balance into this. And right now we don't, and that is an issue that we want to tackle. I want to go to David. David just wrote in tonight, Chief, what are you doing to monitor PG&E's faulty power lines? Weren't they responsible for the Paradise Fire? So Chief, talk about that. Just being candid, right? We've had massive fires, the Kincaid Fire, Paradise. I mean, I can go through the list, the number of transmission lines that have sparked these large wildfires. What's the interface with CAL FIRE and PG&E?
So here's the important thought there is that we agree and we acknowledge that several fires and many of the large devastating fires that we have seen have been around investor-owned utility company lines. We recognize that times have changed since that, where we see the public safety power shutoffs occur. Since then, the state of California has created the Office of Energy Infrastructure and Safety that really takes the lead now with our utility companies around power lines and other utility factors. CAL FIRE plays a role with PG&E specifically and OEIS, the Office of Energy Infrastructure and Safety, on reviewing wildfire mitigation plans that are submitted annually, on the ways in which they are going to do vegetation management, have resources available to be able to reduce the risk of their infrastructure around the state. It's important to note that when the PSPS program started, Public Safety Power Shutoff program started, that it was shutting off during those times of critical fire weather forecasts and conditions. It was shutting off large areas of the grid. Since then, PG&E and others are working on creating microgrids or smaller areas that are less susceptible to shutting off large areas at any one time. As soon as a tree branch hits a line, as soon as the weather exists. So while we continue to see public safety power shutoffs, we see them less frequently than we did here in the last 3 to 4 years.
I appreciate that, Chief. And the other item that we've advanced is that, look, the state is having much more oversight over PG&E. I'll be really blunt. I think it's very clear that PG&E is traditionally have been investing profits to be able to give back to their investors and not in the equipment. Let's just be really candid about it. They have billions of dollars of deferred maintenance. Are they making strides in improving that? Yes. Is it fast enough? No. That's why we passed legislation to be able to get them to underground the 10,000 miles of their most high fire threat fire lines. We know that 99% of all fire starts are stopped when a power line is underground. We need to look at more of that. And by the way, long term, it saves ratepayers money based off of a traditional vegetation management program that they've been running. So we need to get lines underground in the most high fire threat zones. And you're seeing enhanced accountability to be able to have PG&E look at line shutoffs when a branch or a squirrel gets into a line. You're seeing that advanced. They're hardening their lines, putting a hard plastic shell essentially around their lines to be able to keep it more fire safe. So improvements, yes. Fast enough, no. And you're going to continue to see heavy state oversight and making sure they continue to advance. We're going to go to a lightning round, Chief. We can't keep up with questions. We apologize. But Chief, you're a popular person here this evening. We are literally getting dozens upon dozens of questions coming in. So we're going to go lightning round, Chief. Let's get to as many questions as we can. Susie writes in, does Zone 0 apply to local responsibility areas like cities?
Zone 0 regulations have not been promulgated yet through the Board of Forestry. So as that goes through the process, we will know more into the future.
Chris writes in, what's being done to make Trione-Annandale State Park fire safe, given its close proximity to housing on surrounding sites? What I'll say is, Chris, Chief, was it 2 years ago, the state invested $40 million into state parks to be able to have state parks advance wildfire prevention, dead and dying tree removal, brush removal. Trione-Annandale State Park was one of those parks. We've literally put tens of millions of dollars into state parks. Chris, if you have specific concerns in areas, we will be more than happy to work with you and the local superintendent of state parks. Chris, if you don't mind emailing senator.mcguire@senate.ca.gov, Carrie Lindecker, who is on the line here this evening, will follow up with you and we'll work with state parks. I know Trione-Annandale has been a very specific focus. Same with Sugarloaf, by the way, that has that urban interface. We're going to go to Jim. Jim just wrote in, Chief, we've removed grass lawns from our home and replaced them with gardens covered in drought-friendly plants and lots of mulch as a ground cover to help hold moisture. Is this mulch a fire hazard?
The mulch can be considered a fire hazard. The Institute of Business and Home Safety is doing a lot of a publication showing just how the benefit is of moving the mulch and the shrubbery away from the home by 5 feet really makes a difference in protecting your structure. Again, not promulgated in regulation by Zone 0, but your answer is yes, embers into mulch can smolder and spread to other vegetation.
Michael writes in, how are wildfire risk zones defined, Chief?
Wildfire, very high fire hazard severity zones, high fire hazard severity zones, and moderate can all be found. I can't recite them to you here today, but all can be found at osfm.fire.ca.gov, osfm.fire.ca.gov. What I will tell you is that a home that sits in a very high fire hazard severity zone versus a high fire hazard severity zone have all the same requirements as part of Chapter 7A in the fire safe regulations to provide the same type of structure hardening and support in those areas. So you can go to that website and read the various definitions. If not, I can answer them again off to the side as well.
Thank you for your questions. Keep them coming. We are reading them fast and furious. You're on with Chief Joe Tyler, coming to you live from the CAL FIRE headquarters in downtown Sacramento. We're grateful that you're with us. If you'd like to be able to email us, senator.mcguire@senate.ca.gov. Let's go to our next question. Good evening, David. I live in a subdivision with a forested open space that's managed by our HOA. 95% of our fir trees are dead and dying. We have looked for grants and places to obtain funding to provide vegetation management. We have found few very small grants to assist. Are there any other resources that can assist us? So, Chief, I think for David, the best thing for David to do is hook up with his local fire department, fire district, resource conservation district, fire safe council, and then apply for those fire grants. What I also would encourage is work with your local county. Counties have, many of them have professional grant writers to be able to apply into CAL FIRE. But Chief, anything you have to say to David? Let's do quick 30-second response.
Yeah, no, not knowing exactly where your home sits in the community it sits in, I have to be careful in answering this question because the Public Resource Code allows us to require defensible space around inhabited and occupied structures. But in open space, it's a little bit more vague. So where the communities or the counties can come into play is a decision of whether they want to write local ordinances or local regulations that require clearance of those open spaces within your incorporated cities or counties.
Thank you so much. Let's go to Laura. Laura is writing in tonight from beautiful Annapolis. While we are very concerned about wildfire, we're also concerned about the lack of environmental oversight to much of the vegetation management that's being conducted. What mechanisms is CAL FIRE working on to put in place to make sure vegetation management isn't just wholesale destruction of our environment? Chief, take it away.
It is important to note, and that even slows down the state of California, CAL FIRE's goals of reaching some of our targets related to fuels reduction, that every one of these large projects have to fall within CEQA. And CEQA has those various environmental elements, provides for public comment, and it's important that when large-scale vegetation management is occurring, that people are following the CEQA process. So if they're not, then we need to know about it, and our forest practice staff can take a look at it.
Joel writes in, and we are going fast, folks, just trying to get as many questions as we can in. The Chief is drinking his coffee, a Red Bull, and he's fired up and ready to go. Let's go to Joel. Joel writes in, Chief, is hardware wire mesh sufficient to block wind-blown fire embers to protect our attics and crawl spaces? Fire away, Chief.
So, always place to be able to close your eaves, be able to close your vents off with small wireless or small wire mesh. You can find the specifics in the approved products that will be authorized by simply going to that same website, osfm.fire.ca.gov. It provides a list right there on the front of their page of low-cost home retrofits, including those for eaves and vents, to be able to make your home more defendable.
Peter writes in, is my redwood fence fire danger, Chief?
Every fence made of wood is combustible. Every fence can be flammable and catch fire. If 0 to 5 or zone 0 goes forward, you will see the potential where a recommendation will be that a wooden fence does not touch the structure. That again has not been promulgated, but your redwood fence will catch on fire.
We're taking your questions tonight with Chief Joe Tyler. He's coming to you live from CAL FIRE headquarters in the beautiful state capital of Sacramento. Let's get to Bud. Good evening, Bud. Bud writes, when a forested area is deemed too close to a community of homes, are grants available? Again, we could tell the theme, right, Chief? There's a lot of concern and need for money available for clearing a strip, say 20 feet wide, to protect those homes. How does a small unincorporated town apply for such a grant? Again, what I would say, Bud, and push back on me, Chief, work with your local volunteer fire company, your fire district, your county resource conservation district. Bud, if you email us at senator.mcguire@senate.ca.gov, Carrie Lindecker, who is on this evening will be able to connect you where you're at with the best available public agency or nonprofit to assist you. Anything you want to add to that, Chief?
You're right on the mark.
All right, I'm going to go to Michael. Good evening, Michael. Thanks so much for your question. Michael says, I've been a Firewise leader for 5 years now. We've done a good job in reducing vegetation load, but almost no one has done anything about home hardening despite available grants. Do you have any suggestions about how to motivate my neighbors? Look, I'm a big believer the best way we motivate folks to be able to secure more hardened home is to incentivize it. So I'm a big believer. Number one, if folks harden their home within a community and they're in a community and they're a hardened community, they should be able to write. We should be looking at potential tax incentives for folks to be able to harden their homes. But Chief, what are the best incentives that you've found where folks can do the right thing and harden their homes? Because it could be pretty damn expensive.
Yeah, so this is part of, and it won't help you today, but this is part of the pilot programs that we're putting together. And the closest in Senate District 2 is to in Kelseyville there to try to harden that community and then be able to show the proof of it working and be able to expand those grant funds out to other communities as well. I truly believe that finding ways to incentivize home hardening will motivate individuals. At least I hope that it will. And I think that that is a way, again, it is through grant opportunities, it is through your local fire safe councils, Firewise communities, and because we coordinate Firewise communities through our Office of the State Fire Marshal, you can always contact us. Frank Bigelow is the Deputy Director, Frank Bigelow, and he can provide you some more guidance as well.
We're taking your questions and we're going fast, folks. We are in our lightning round. The Chief is ready to roll. Let's go to Sandy. Good evening, Sandy. Sandy writes into the Chief, Chief, would you please define structure hardening? We lost our home in the Nuns fire. We rebuilt with ICF blocks. Are those like cinder blocks, Chief?
I think so.
Okay, we're going to go.
Positive.
We're going with cinder blocks.
All right.
To produce a 4-hour fire rating for our walls. Where does our home fit in the hardening scheme? Chief, take it away.
You are moving well in the hardening scheme. There are things on the external of the house, whether it be block, whether it be hardy plank, whether it be double pane windows, whether it be closed eaves, meshed vents, cleaned gutters, are all going to make your home more susceptible to be hardened in the event of a fire. Having a non-combustible roof, that sometimes is hard to do, and some of these are expensive. But for any aspect of home hardening across your home, again, going to that website on the Office of the State Fire Marshal will give you an approved materials list that you can use to help harden your home at low cost.
We're going to go to Amy in Marin. Good evening, Amy. Amy says, is there help available for bamboo eradication? Yes, there is, Amy. One, which we are grateful for the leadership in Marin County, and to the voters of Marin, you all passed a measure that provides local funding, about $10 million every year for wildfire prevention and vegetation management. There are grants for bamboo eradication. Chief, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so my answer there is going to be not necessarily about the bamboo, but if you're in the county, more information, I'd recommend that you contact the Marin County Fire Department. Chief Jason Weber has his staff that can assist you in those opportunities to help.
Let's go to Judy. Good evening, Judy. What is being done or can be done by CAL FIRE to encourage the National Park Service to reduce the very high wildfire risk conditions in the wilderness area in the Point Reyes National Seashore? But let's be candid, Chief. 52% of California's forest land is owned, managed by the federal government. Talk about that relationship. The Biden administration just announced a $500 million investment in California in specific watersheds and national forests. Biggest chunk of funds that we've received literally in decades, finally from the federal government. Take it away, Chief, on that.
Yeah, exactly. 57% of the forested lands are federal lands. We have a relationship with all of our federal agencies to work together to try to collaborate, to be able to cross boundaries, to be able to use the funds at the federal and state level to make the landscape more resilient, regardless of whose land it is on. But to be quite transparent, I have little to no authority of how a federal agency manages federal land. I can apply pressure on the importance of protecting our communities and the people. Our local fire departments, our local fire agencies can also provide that pressure as well. But again, we have a close working relationship with National Park Service, Bureau of Land Management, BIA, Fish and Wildlife, and Bureau of Land Management.
I'm going to go to Audrey. Good evening, Audrey. Audrey writes in, how are requirements for cellular companies being instituted to ensure cell service doesn't go down during the fire event or PSPS? Great question, Audrey. Here's where we're at. We advanced legislation, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, that mandates 72-hour backup power for critical cell phone towers, large cable boxes. The Public Utilities Commission then implemented those regs. Those regs are now in place, and cell companies across the state, cable companies across California now must provide 72-hour mandated 72-hour backup power for critical towers, critical cable boxes to keep the cellular system running. Look, these phones are our lifeline during emergencies. And what we can't have happen is what happened during the Tubbs fire, where we saw so many cell towers go down, whether they lost power, they were burned. We saw the same thing recently happen in Hawaii. And we have advanced nation-leading reform of resiliency, keeping the critical cell infrastructure up and running. Chief, anything you want to add to that?
I would agree. Just like every one of your constituents, these cell phones are the lifeline to our first responders, law enforcement, and fire service. Yes, we have radio frequencies we can talk over, but having the availability of a cell phone is of utmost importance. And it is our partner agency, the Office of Emergency Services. They have a public safety communications section. So working with our cellular carriers and providers there, as well as having portable cellular towers available from the state, we can mobilize those and move those out to reestablish cell coverage, but that doesn't help, unfortunately, in the moment of the emergency.
Yeah, and the other, absolutely, Chief. And the other item that we've done, there are new laws on the books that mandate telecommunication cell companies and cable companies within 60 minutes of an outage have to work with PG&E, local emergency managers, to be able to coordinate on when the infrastructure will be back up and running, what the challenge is, and then they are mandated to be able to provide regular updates. So really grateful for that, and that was really critical. I'm going to go to Cheryl. Cheryl's a campfire survivor. She's not been made whole based off of the settlement with PG&E, and she wants reform for previous fire victims from the state. Thank you, Cheryl. Hear you loud and clear on that. We're really grateful for you writing in. Let's go to Christine. Chief, she writes in, is it better to have green, healthy, fire-resistant plants close to your home than to have wood chips close to a structure? Take it away, Chief.
Short answer, yes. At this point in time, that zone 0 might change in the future, but I would rather have green ornamental shrubbery than wood chips and flammable material at the base of your home.
That's great. We have about 5 more minutes left. We encourage you to be able to get your last minute questions and comments. We've been going as quickly as possible. I want to say thank you so much to Chief Tyler. He is on hour 18, being awake here today. He literally came in from San Luis Obispo for this town hall. We're really grateful for it. Let's keep going, Chief. We're going to do quick questions, quick answers. Let's roll. Michael writes in, are there any plans to help local volunteer fire departments on equipment? Absolutely, Michael. Over the last 36 months, over the last 3 years, we have secured state funding, as I mentioned in the beginning, 10 new Type 6 fire engines in Southern Humboldt. Northern Mendocino, brand new fire training tower at the Santa Rosa Junior College Fire Academy. That will allow them to nearly double the capacity of new recruits into the fire service. We are working right now in Trinity County to be able to get the same Type 6 fire engines, new radios, and turnouts in Trinity County. So, Michael, if you have questions, comments, senator.mcguire@senate.ca.gov, and we'd be happy to work with you on that. Earl Cummings writes in, are resource conservation districts eligible for funding? Chief, yes, they are. Take it away.
Yes, your RCDs are eligible for funding. They just need to apply for the grants. They need to be scored, and then we will get as much funding out as we can to as many RCDs, fire safe councils, or other nonprofits and Firewise communities as we can across the state.
Jordan writes in from Corte Madera. Good evening, Jordan. Thanks so much for tuning in tonight. Why not focus on brush removal and controlled burns on open space lands next to our dense housing as a primary prevention strategy? Take it away, Chief.
So we are doing all of the above: fire prevention, home hardening, defensible space, but at the same time doing fuels reduction through hand thinning, mechanical thinning, and prescribed fire. Now, when you talk about prescribed fire, there are certain prescriptions you have to be within, certain fuel moistures, certain wind conditions, certain topography to ensure that that fire is going to do exactly what we intended it to do. So it is an all of the above approach to be able to make California more resilient.
100%. Thank you so much, Chief. Again, we have about 5 minutes left. 5 minutes left at senator.mcguire@senate.ca.gov. Let's go to our next question. Here we go. I'm just trying to pull this up directly. All right. This is coming from Bean Anderson. Bean Anderson, citizens in Sonoma Valley have hired KLD Associates to produce a wildfire evacuation time estimate study for the Sonoma Valley. KLD has done evacuation planning for every nuclear power plant in the country in dozens of cities. The county and state haven't done this yet. Local citizens have had to step up and do it. How will the county or state use this and integrate it into their plans? I'll be honest with you, Bean, I apologize for my ignorance. I didn't realize that. Would love to be able to get more information on that. Thank you for the question and comment. Chief, anything you want to say to Mr. Anderson?
I think it would be important, likewise, Senator, to be able to better understand what that organization is doing and how we can incorporate it better. But at this point, each one of our units are tasked with creating wildfire evacuation plans with our local partners, with our law enforcement agencies. Remember that your local law enforcement agency is the authority having jurisdiction on evacuations. Even though a firefighter might tell you to evacuate, please take heed of that. We work so closely with our law enforcement partners to plan for the depopulation through evacuation and the repopulation of your communities.
Chief Tyler, you have opened up a can of worms on compost versus mulch versus lawn. So we're going to get to the bottom of it here. Mercy writes in, I have put compost around the base of my house instead of mulch, thinking that it's less flammable. What is true?
So how decomposed is the mulch is my question. Is there components of combustibility or flammability within that mulch? If there is, look at alternative sources: rock, non-flammable, non-combustible material.
But look, I think the bottom line is this, right? Within 5 feet of the house, and I would say probably the vast majority of homeowners have some type of landscaping.
Yes, they do.
So your bottom line is, if there is mulch on the ground and you evacuate and there's embers, that is a risk. Everything is a risk, right? And it's how you diminish that risk. Correct. So your best advice would be what within 5 feet of the house?
To within 5 feet of the house, have non-combustible, non-flammable material. That could be concrete, that could be rock, that could be something of that nature. And listen, You can go to my home today and you'll see the same ornamental shrubbery sitting right up against my home. I have not done what I'm suggesting that any one of you have done yet either. And the aesthetics of your home are so important. I get that. But it is also important to make sure that your homes can resist wildfire.
I want a couple more. Ken writes in. We're now going to talk about gravel. Is putting a 3 to 5 foot wide strip of gravel along the perimeter of your house most helpful and effective at reducing fire risk? So again, best case, non-flammable material. So if it's gravel, probably the best, but I don't want to put words in your mouth, Chief.
Nope. I would agree. That is an appropriate source to keep the embers and the flame away from your home.
All right. Vicky writes in. I think you should just spend a couple of seconds describing Firewise, but she writes in, Chief, are there special instructions for Firewise groups? Take it away, Chief Tyler.
So Firewise communities across the state, there are 799 Firewise communities across the state right now. The 800th will be announced here next week in Southern California. Firewise communities are really initially a label of a community or a subset of a community desiring to make their community more resilient. So it opens up opportunities for funding. It opens opportunities for resources. It opens opportunities in which the community can come together to make their homes more resilient.
Brian and Veda have written in, both from San Anselmo, both concerned about how narrow the roadways are getting in and out. Chief, CAL FIRE's work with local sheriff's offices, local Office of Emergency Services. The new standard for evacuation is when a fire that is continuing to spread is, I'm making this up, Chief, hours away, even though it may be an inconvenience, you're still calling for mandatory evacuations, because what we've learned, for example, in the Paradise Fire, the Valley Fire, the Tubbs Fire. So let's use San Anselmo, for example. Most likely, if you live in a community with narrow roads, you're probably going to get evacuated much before, a long time before that fire may even hit the home, but go into new changes in evacuation practices, Chief.
Yeah, so as part of that, this is an issue across the state and across Northern California as a whole, related to fire safe regulations and what the future fire safe regulations are going to be about road widths and turnarounds, turnabouts for apparatus to be able to get up and down and be able to pass civilians who are evacuating the area. The biggest thing that I'm going to tell you here as part of this lightning round is there is an evacuation advisory, a warning, and an order. Take heed of those and sign up for those wireless alerts and those notifications from your county emergency services to know that when you should evacuate. And please, when an advisory or a warning comes, please consider evacuating, because what will happen is your local fire departments, your local resources, CAL FIRE, and all of our partners will have to focus on evacuating people versus perimeter control of trying to put a fire out. We have to get people out of the way and get them into safety first.
Yeah, 100%. I'm going to go to Darren. Darren writes in, there are plenty of examples of homes. We have a couple of time for 2 more questions, and then we're going to go to closing comments from the chief on this Wildfire Preparedness Week. There are plenty of examples, says Darren, of homes that survive during fires because they're prepared properly. How close are we to having a system in place where we can get insurance at a reasonable cost? If our homes are hardened, we have the defensible space, even if we live in a very high fire hazard zone. Darren, I just want to be open, honest, and I'm not trying to disappoint. And I'll have the chief check me. And if you think I'm full of it, Chief, I want you to tell me, please. I think it's going to be very difficult if you live in a high fire zone and you harden your home. If it's a one-off and it's just you and your neighbors aren't doing anything, it will most likely be challenging to get insurance at this point. Where we're really focusing is working with the industry, is how we can adopt community-wide hardening standards. Because what we know is this, according to Moody's, if you harden your home to a standard like what California has, 40% less likely to burn. If you perform vegetation management on your property and harden your home, 75% less likely to burn. We need to get these standards in place. And candidly, at times, I think we're going to have to look at a mandate where insurance companies have to write. But we don't have that at this point. We had legislation that would have done that. I'm going to be very open with you. It was defeated. We've tried it twice now, and twice it was defeated. More to come on this. But Chief, again, I don't want to give Darren false hope that even if they do the right thing right now, insurance companies may not write. We have to get a mandate in there and change state law. But Chief, if you think I'm full of it, please tell me.
No, I wholeheartedly agree that I cannot guarantee you today of all those efforts that you might make in fire prevention are going to allow an insurance company to write a policy for you. What I can say is doing the fire prevention activities around your property and your home, regardless of the insurance situation, is going to make your home more defendable and more resilient to an approaching wildfire.
We're going to go to first of the last two questions. Betsy says, she lives on the Redwood coast, and therefore it is extremely moist where she lives. First question, how do we determine if the property is a good candidate for a prescribed burn? Second question, is having a metal roof recommended for fire safety? Take it away, Chief.
A non-combustible roof, a non-flammable roof is always important as part of the home hardening effort. To your first question, not knowing exactly where you are in the Redwood Coast, I would encourage you to reach out to one of your local fire departments or one of our CAL FIRE representatives. Again, if in Mendocino, Brandon Gunn, if in Sonoma Lake Napa, Mike Marcucci, if in Humboldt, Kurt McCrae. They can send one of our staff, one of our foresters out, one of our fire prevention officers out to take a look and help you in determining the state of your property.
I love that. Thank you so much. And now we are going to our last piece, update on NextGen 911. Chief, I could take this. Carrie writes in on NextGen 911. Long story short, and thank you so much, Carrie. She is writing in from, where is that? From Ukiah on NextGen 911. She's a dispatcher. Thank you, by the way, Care, for your work in public safety. Yeah, NextGen 911 is going to be rolling out here in the next year. Long story short, what that's going to look like is when folks call 911, you can soon be able to send pictures to be able to give dispatchers real-time information. You can send video in. We also will be backing up all 911 systems onto the cloud, so we won't have happen what we happened in years past, where 911 call centers have to be evacuated. They have antiquated facilities, and 911 can't be switched over to a neighboring municipality or call center. It's going to be a game changer. It's funded. We're grateful. But Chief, anything on NextGen 911?
I think that you brought up all great points. That is the specifics of NextGen 911. Our partner at Cal OES, Public Safety Communications, are really the forefront of state government and making sure that across the board at our local and state dispatch centers that NextGen 911 is being implemented.
We have been hitting your questions tonight. I want to end with an apology. I am so sorry that we have not gotten to all of your questions. Amazing number of questions, incredible interest, rightfully so. Northern California, the North Coast, has been severely impacted by wildfires year after year after year. And I got to say, there's nowhere else in the world that I'd rather live than right here in Northern California. Folks are engaged, they take care of neighbors in the darkest of days, and they deliver when times are tough. We are grateful that you tuned in. I want to turn it over to Chief Tyler for some closing remarks on behalf of the 12,000 women and men of CAL FIRE. Chief, I just want to say thank you. You're incredibly busy. You have an incredibly stressful job. You do one hell of a job. We're grateful that you represent us day in and day out. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Thanks for being with us. Chief, take it away with some closing comments.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk to the people within Senate District 2 and even perhaps some that are not within your district that are on tonight. You know, I will end tonight how I started, that it is not CAL FIRE alone. It is no one agency alone. It is partnerships, and that is the message of this week's Wildfire Preparedness Week. It is about local partners at your local agencies. It is about the state organization and agencies coming together. It is about federal agencies coming together. It's about fire safe councils, American Red Cross, Firewise communities, RCDs, to really come together. And the importance is that when we're working on this effort of wildfire prevention and making California more resilient, we have to do it together. We cannot do it alone because that creates a patchwork that creates fuel breaks and shaded fuel breaks and fire prevention activities that are not connected to each other. And that is the importance for us moving forward. It is important that all of Californians, all of us together, help our neighbors to make their homes more defendable, make your communities more defendable, with the assistance of my personnel and others can assist and be subject matter experts in that. There are millions of dollars of grant opportunities that are available. Much of the time, those are in block grants, as we've talked about today. I would encourage each and every one of you to go to our websites, whether it is to your local emergency management, whether it's to your local fire district, to sign up for emergency notifications and local ordinances, or go to our websites at CAL FIRE at fire.ca.gov. The Office of the State Fire Marshal is osfm.fire.ca.gov. Lots of great information there. I want to thank you all again for being here. I hope for a moderated fire year here in the early months. Remember, California will always be subject to wildfire, but it is all of us together that can reduce that threat.
Chief, thank you again. We are forever grateful to you, to those 12,000 who you work with each and every day. And again, I can't say this enough. I've had the absolute honor to be able to work with Chief Tyler, with the women and men of CAL FIRE. They truly are the gold standard. Local 2881, who represents CAL FIRE, we are forever grateful to the CAL FIRE firefighters who do the amazing work day in and day out, keeping our wildlands and our communities safe each and every day. I want to say also thank you to the team who will put tonight's town hall together. We want to say big thank you to John, to Mercedes, to Lindecker, to Nielsen, to Lyles. I want to say thank you to Ginny and Katie, who are our ASL sign language interpreters who are with us tonight. Thank you to the two of you. And I'm going to end it right here and say this. We got a lot of work to do, but we've made tremendous progress over the last 10 years on beefing up our wildfire response efforts. We've gone from 6,700 CAL FIRE firefighters to over 12,000 here this year. We're going to hire an additional 1,000 over the next 2 years. We're expanding training facilities, we're purchasing new equipment, and we're investing in prevention like never before. More money has gone into prevention in this state over the last decade than ever before. And we got to keep that effort up. And I promise you, we're not going to take our foot off the pedal. All right. Thank you so much for joining us. We're all going to knock on wood. You heard it from Chief Tyler. We're hoping for a moderate to a regular fire season. Chief, we're going to hold you to that. Just FYI, enough of these mega fires. We've had too much here in California. Thank you all for joining us. Stay safe. Have a great night and enjoy the weekend. Good night, everybody. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.